I still remember the way they looked at me that day, the judgment in their eyes, the whispers that followed me like shadows through the grand hall. The chandeliers above us glittered like diamonds, but all I could feel was the weight of every stare burning into my skin. "They say she only married him for the money," one woman whispered to another, loud enough for me to hear. "She probably doesn't even love him." Poor Miho, blinded by a pretty face. I smiled, pretending not to notice, pretending not to care. But inside something broke. Because I did love him, more deeply than I'd ever loved anyone in my life. And I didn't marry him for his money. I married him in spite of it. Miho held my hand tightly as we walked toward the altar, his grip steady, reassuring. His eyes met mine, soft and full of warmth, and for a moment all the noise around us faded. "Ignore them," he whispered. "You're all I see." I believed him. But the truth was, his family never wanted me there. They came from old money, generations of prestige and influence. I, on the other hand, came from nothing. My parents ran a tiny flower shop in a quiet neighborhood. I worked there every weekend, learning how to make beauty out of soil and thorns. Maybe that's why I was drawn to Miho, because even though his world was made of glass and gold, he looked at me like I was something rare, something real. We met in the most unexpected way. I was delivering flowers to a corporate event, and he was there. In a tailored suit, surrounded by people who seemed more interested in impressing him than actually knowing him. When one of the vases tipped and shattered near the stage, everyone gasped, except him. He crouched down, helped me gather the petals and broken glass, and said, "You know, sometimes beauty shows itself only after it breaks." That was how it started, quietly like a spark in the dark. We began meeting for coffee, then dinners. He'd listen when I spoke about my dreams, and never once did he make me feel small. When he proposed, he didn't do it with diamonds or fancy gestures. He took me back to the flower shop where we first met and said, "You brought color back into my life. I want to spend the rest of my life protecting that light." But the moment his parents found out, the fairy tale began to crumble. His mother visited my shop the next day. Her words were polite, but her tone was sharp enough to cut. "You're young," she said. "You have potential, but you don't belong in our family. Do you understand what people will say?" I remember my hand shaking as I arranged a bouquet. "I love your son," I said quietly. She looked at me for a long time, then sighed. "Love fades. Reputation doesn't." Still, Miho stood by me. He said he didn't care about approval or image or status. He said love was enough, and I wanted so badly to believe that. On our wedding day, I wore a simple dress, not because we couldn't afford more, but because I wanted it to feel real. The lace was handmade by my mother, every stitch a piece of her blessing. But the moment I walked into that ballroom, I knew I was walking into war. The guests looked me up and down, their smiles tight, their words dripping with sweetness that stung. "How quaint," one woman said. "She chose a modest dress. How humble of her." Another laughed softly. "She's smart. The less she spends on the dress, the more she keeps for herself later." I felt Miho's hand tremble slightly. He wanted to defend me, but I squeezed his hand before he could. "It's fine," I whispered. "They'll see one day." But when his mother stood to make a toast, I wasn't ready for what came next. "I raised my son to be kind, loyal, and responsible," she said, her voice smooth, elegant. "And while today is about love, I do hope he remembers that love should never make us blind to what we stand to lose." There were chuckles. Eyes turned to me. My heart pounded so hard I thought everyone could hear it. I forced a smile, but the lump in my throat refused to go away. Later, during our first dance, I leaned into Miho's shoulder and whispered, "Do they really think that of me?" He sighed. "They don't know you yet, but they will. I promise." That promise became my anchor in the months that followed. But promises don't always protect you from pain. After the wedding, his family's coldness grew heavier. His mother barely spoke to me. His father, a stern businessman, treated me like a stranger in my own home. Every time we visited, I felt like a guest, careful where I sat, how I spoke, how I breathed. I tried. God knows I tried. I brought gifts, cooked meals, volunteered for their family foundation. But nothing was ever enough. Until one evening, everything changed. It was Miho's father's birthday. The whole family gathered at their mansion. Chandeliers brighter than the sun, tables overflowing with food that looked too perfect to eat. When I arrived, the whispers started again. But this time I noticed someone else watching me quietly from the corner of the room. An older man in a gray suit. I didn't know him, but there was something kind in his eyes. During dinner, his mother began talking about the company. "We need to be careful who represents our family name," she said pointedly. "Especially now that we're considering expansion overseas. Reputation is everything." Then she looked at me. "Don't you agree, dear?" I felt the air around the table tighten. Everyone was watching, waiting for me to say something foolish. "I think reputation matters," I said softly. "But kindness matters more. It's harder to build and much easier to lose." There was silence. Then a quiet chuckle from the man in gray. He raised his glass. "Well said. You have a good head on your shoulders." Later that night, he approached me privately. "You remind me of someone I once knew," he said. "Someone who didn't care about status, only sincerity." I smiled politely, unsure what to say. 2 weeks later, Miho told me that the man I had spoken to was none other than Mr. Han, the founder of the company his father now ran. The man whose approval could make or break their entire business. And apparently he liked me. After that, everything began to shift. Invitations that used to exclude me suddenly arrived at our door. His mother started asking for my opinion on charity events. But I could feel it wasn't genuine warmth. It was convenience. They needed me because someone powerful respected me. Still, I played along. Not out of revenge, but because I believed that if I just kept being myself, they would eventually see my heart. But fate had other plans. A few months later, Miho got into an accident. It happened late at night. A car crash caused by a drunk driver. He survived, but he couldn't walk for months. His family panicked. The company needed him, and suddenly, all their polished pride crumbled into fear. I took care of him every day, feeding him, changing his bandages, helping him relearn to stand. His mother came to visit twice in 3 months. Once to scold the doctors, once to check the hospital bills. One night, as I sat by his bed, he looked at me with tears in his eyes. "You should rest," he said. "You've done enough." I shook my head. "This is what love looks like, Miho. It's not the pretty part. It's the hard part." He smiled weakly. "I don't deserve you." "Yes," I whispered. "You do." And in that fragile moment, I realized something. Love doesn't need validation. It proves itself in silence, in pain, in persistence. When Miho finally recovered enough to walk again, his mother insisted on hosting a dinner to celebrate his progress. I agreed to go, though a part of me feared what new humiliation awaited. That night, the family gathered again. Polished smiles, shallow laughter. Everything looked perfect, until Mr. Han walked in unexpectedly. He greeted me first, not Miho's parents. Then he looked at them and said something that made the whole room fall silent. "You know," he said, "if more people had the heart of your daughter-in-law, our world would be a better place." His words stunned everyone. I could see Miho's mother's face freeze. Mr. Han continued, "I've been working on a new project, a foundation to help small businesses rebuild after the pandemic. I want her to be part of it. Her perspective is exactly what we need." I tried to hide my surprise. "Me? A part of his project?" He nodded at me kindly. "You understand people, not just their money." For the first time, I felt seen, truly seen. That night, as we drove home, Miho took my hand and said, "Maybe this is the beginning of them finally seeing who you are." I wanted to believe that, but I also knew that redemption doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and sometimes pain. And I was right, because just when things started to change, a secret from Miho's family would soon come to light. One that would turn everything upside down, and make every person who once called me a gold digger wish they'd never opened their mouths. I thought that night would mark a new beginning for us. For once I felt accepted, or at least tolerated. But life has a strange way of testing us right when we think we're safe. Started with a phone call. Miho was in his study, going through reports when his father called him to the family mansion. I could tell from his face that something wasn't right. His tone was serious, almost cold. "What happened?" I asked. He hesitated. "My father wants to see us both. He said it's urgent." We drove in silence. The sky was gray, heavy with rain. When we arrived, the atmosphere in the house felt different. Tense. His mother stood in the living room, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Mr. Han was there too, sitting calmly, as if he already knew what was coming. Miho's father didn't waste time. He looked at me, his eyes sharp. "Do you know what this is?" he asked, holding up a file. I frowned. "No. This," he said, "is the background check my assistant ran on you before the wedding. And this," he pulled out another folder, "is what we found yesterday. It seems your family was in serious debt before you married Miho. Your parents took out loans and you paid them off just a few weeks after the wedding. Care to explain how?" The air went cold. I could feel every gaze burning into me. I swallowed hard. "I paid them with my savings," I said. "I'd been saving for years from the flower shop." His mother laughed softly. "Years? How convenient. You expect us to believe that a florist saved enough to clear a 40 million won debt." My voice trembled. "I'm telling the truth." Miho looked at me, confused but gentle. "Is that true?" "Yes," I whispered. "It is." But his father slammed the folder shut. "We have receipts. The money came from an anonymous transfer through one of our subsidiary accounts. That means someone from our company helped you. Or you had access to information you shouldn't have." I was speechless. I had no idea what he was talking about. Miho's mother crossed her arms. "I told you, Miho. She's been after our wealth from the start." Tears burned my eyes. "That's not true. I didn't even know about that transfer. I never." "Enough," his father shouted. "You've embarrassed this family enough." For a moment everything blurred. Their voices, the thunder outside, the pounding of my own heart. Then Mr. Han stood up quietly. "I think that's enough, Chairman Park." Everyone turned to him. He looked at me and smiled softly. "You're not lying, are you?" I shook my head, tears slipping down my face. "No. I swear I'm not." He nodded slowly. "That's what I thought." Then he turned to Miho's father. "That transfer was from me." The room fell silent. He continued, "Your daughter-in-law didn't know. I made the payment myself after visiting her parents' shop last month. I saw how much they were struggling, how they refused help because they didn't want to burden her. I respected that, so I helped anonymously." Miho's father blinked in disbelief. "Why would you?" "Because she reminded me of someone I once loved," Mr. Han said quietly. "Someone pure, someone kind. I lost her because I cared too much about what people thought. I won't make that mistake again." For the first time, I saw Miho's mother speechless. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Mr. Han sighed. "You should be ashamed, all of you. You judged her for her background, for her simplicity, for not fitting into your world. Yet she's the only one among you who has shown genuine character." I covered my mouth, trying not to cry. Miho reached for my hand, his eyes glistening. "Father," he said softly, "I told you. She's not like what you think." But even then his parents said nothing. Pride is a hard thing to break. That night when we got home, I cried in Miho's arms for a long time. Not because I was angry, but because I was tired. Tired of proving myself to people who didn't want to see me. "I don't know how much more of this I can take," I whispered. He kissed my forehead. "You don't have to prove anything anymore. I'll handle them. From now on, you just be yourself." And he kept his word. In the weeks that followed, Miho distanced himself from his parents' business and began working independently. He started a small social enterprise, one that helped fund women-owned local shops and startups. He said it was inspired by me. First, people laughed. They said he was foolish to leave the comfort of his father's empire. But then it worked. The business grew, and the same people who mocked him started asking how he did it. One day, as I arranged flowers for an event, I received a letter. It was from Mr. Han. Inside there was a single sentence. "When people underestimate you, let your results speak." Those words became my mantra. Months passed. Slowly, even his parents began to soften. They attended one of Miho's events, where he honored small business owners who'd overcome hardship. I stood by his side not as an outsider but as his partner, the woman who helped him build something real. But the moment of true redemption came unexpectedly. It was a rainy afternoon when Miho's mother visited our home. For the first time she came alone. I opened the door, surprised to see her without her usual polished armor. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I nodded. We sat at the kitchen table. She looked around, at the modest home, the plants by the window, the simple comfort of it all. "I used to think love was about status," she said. "That protecting our name was more important than protecting our hearts. But I was wrong." I stayed silent, afraid of breaking the fragile moment. She took a deep breath. "Mr. Han visited me yesterday. He told me what you've been doing, how you helped manage Miho's project, how you personally visited the women he funded, how you refused to take credit." Her eyes softened. "You've done more for this family than I ever have. And I'm sorry." Tears welled in my eyes. I didn't know how to respond. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small box. Inside was a delicate silver pendant shaped like a lily. "This belonged to my mother," she said. "She used to say lilies represented purity of heart. I think she'd want you to have it." I held it in my hands, unable to stop the tears. "Thank you," I whispered. She smiled faintly. "No, thank you for loving my son when we didn't deserve you." That day marked the end of something old, and the beginning of something new. A few months later, our story spread beyond our circle. News outlets began talking about Miho's company, about how it was changing the landscape for small businesses. People admired him, but many also spoke about us, about how our marriage had survived every storm. One evening, we were invited to an award ceremony where Miho was being honored for his contributions. I stood beside him, nervous but proud. When he stepped onto the stage, he didn't thank the investors or partners first. He looked straight at me and said, "This all started because of one person. She taught me that wealth means nothing without kindness, and that love is the greatest investment of all." The audience applauded, but I just stood there, frozen in emotion, because I remembered where we began, the whispers, the judgment, the humiliation, and now, here we were, standing in the same world that once rejected us. After the ceremony, a woman approached me. I recognized her immediately, one of the guests from our wedding, the one who'd called me a gold digger loud enough for everyone to hear. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "I misjudged you." Everyone did. I smiled gently. "It's okay. Sometimes people only see what they want to see." She shook her head. "No, you saw something deeper. You made him better." That night, as Miho and I walked home under the city lights, he slipped his arm around me and whispered, "Remember our wedding day?" How could I forget? I laughed softly. "It was chaos." He chuckled. "If we could survive that, we can survive anything." I looked up at him, at the man who had stood by me through it all, the whispers, the doubt, the pain. "You know," I said, "I used to think love was something that had to be proven, but now I know it's something that proves you." He smiled. "And you've proven me right every single day." We stopped by a small cafe, the same one where we'd had our first coffee together years ago. The owner recognized us and smiled warmly. "Still together?" he asked playfully. Miho laughed. "Always." We sat by the window watching the rain fall. The world outside was noisy and fast, but inside it was quiet, peaceful. I took his hand and whispered, "Do you think they'll ever stop calling me a gold digger?" He squeezed my fingers gently. "They can call you whatever they want. The only thing that matters is what we built together. And that speaks louder than any rumor." I smiled, resting my head on his shoulder. And in that moment I realized something profound. The people who once tried to define me were now learning from me. The same voices that mocked me were now silent, replaced by admiration, even respect. Redemption doesn't always come with revenge or grand gestures. Sometimes it comes quietly, like the first drop of rain after a long drought, healing everything it touches. Years later, when our story was featured in a magazine article titled, "The Woman Who Changed the Heir's Heart," I didn't feel pride. I felt peace, because love had done what money never could. It healed, it humbled, it redeemed. And as I placed the silver lily pendant around my neck before going to sleep that night, I whispered to myself, "They called me a gold digger at our wedding, but now they know the truth." If I could go back to that day, to the whispers, the judgment, the tears, I wouldn't change a thing. Because every insult carved strength into me. Every doubt became a lesson. Love isn't proven by wealth or appearances or the approval of others. It's proven by patience, by faith, and by the way you choose to stay even when it hurts. I was never digging for gold. I was planting seeds. And now every flower that blooms in our life is proof that real love always finds its way through the dirt.